Movies can have a lasting impression on you and bring back great memories. Certain images you will always remember. Things that have been with me all my life and keep getting added to with every movie I see.
I will turn this place into the fucking Wild Bunch if I think you are fucking with me.
E.T. phone home.
This is the end of your rotten life, you motherfucking dope pusher!
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Welcome to my Celluloid Heart Podcast, Season 4, Episode 132. I'm your host, Philip Duke, and I'm back here with
his cousin Chip. How you doing, everybody?
That's right. And they all said that they're fine. And what were you going to say? You were going to add something to what you said. Go ahead.
You didn't take the picture.
Oh, that's right. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Should we take a picture?
Sure. You guys are going to be here for the picture. Yay.
No, I'll edit that part out. But
damn it.
All right. So you got anything when you were last time we spoke to you? Everything's good. You're writing, drawing, doing whatever you're doing.
I'm inking some stuff. Was inking a little
Video
bit
games?
on Brett Booth stuff and a little bit of Silvestri stuff, but then Brett Booth retweets this other guy that actually does Transformer books for IDW, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was posting a few things that he was doing as commissions of Optimus Prime, a few others that I was like, I'll try my hand at inking these. So I went ahead and saved them, dropped them into my iPad, just been kind of tinkering.
See, sounds awesome. I restarted on my Once Upon a Time in the West book.
Mm-hmm.
I also got I've also been kicking that idea around for my story that I told you there's no way I can do DB Cooper now, like my story. But I figured out kind of a way through that and around it where the guy's just like, you want me to do it, I'll do it. Which, speaking of crime and heist, that's what this is.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, and then my wife for Valentine's Day got me the Shaw Brothers collection, which is like 12 kung fu movies. Well, like 11 kung fu movies, and then one is called Peking Man, which is like their version of King Kong. So it's like totally it. I've started to watch it once, but now I want to watch it again in full on, like, let's have fun, like, you know. And some of those fights in these movies are just so great. But yeah, so I got that. So thank you, honey. But before we get to the fun, I want to get to we have lost some celebrities lately. So wanted to bring that. And then I got something by somebody that they wrote on Instagram the other day that Chip probably already saw, but I want to pass this on. So we've lost some celebrity. We lost Betty Davis, Howard Hessman. You and I did Dr. Detroit, Louis Anderson. And on for anybody interested, Mark Maron releases his WTF podcast. If somebody dies that he's had on the show before, he'll release that episode. So he released like he had Louis Anderson on twice, and he released that as one thing. And then also like he released that, and then he released like Ivan Reitman and some other things. Meatloaf, Bob Saget, Dwayne Hickman, who granted he was old. Dwayne Hickman is I only mention this to Chip because we know Gilligan from Dobie Gillis. So he was Dobie Gillis.
Yep.
Sidney Poitier, Peter Bogdanovich, Max Julian. If you're a True Romance fan, you're like, oh, Max Julian. Yeah, he directed the Mac. And Ivan Reitman, who we just lost.
You know what irritates me, though?
Uh-oh. What? That they die so in clumps?
No, that the information that they gave for Bob Saget, that his death could have been prevented.
I heard something about he fell or something.
Yeah,
I didn't know that until I was listening to somebody talk about, I forget who it was, but it was another comedian was like, yeah, poor Bob.
Yeah, he fell and basically had some contusions on the back of his head, and he just went to sleep and he died in his sleep. But if he would have went to the hospital, they would have watched him and probably given him, drugs or whatever, and had somebody watching him 24 hours to make sure that he wasn't sleeping.
Yeah, you're supposed to have somebody with you to wake you up every, so long. It's like when I got in that wreck and I had a concussion that I could feel. We didn't go to the hospital, but my wife's like, yeah, your brain was tousled and tousled. Yeah, it was tossed and jostled.
Jostle at the same time.
So she's
And
like,
shaken and stirred.
so that's right. So she would, here's to you, James Bond. She would, so she'd wake me up all the time. Like, are you okay? Are you okay? And with my dad, when he got a concussion, I had to be over there to watch him, make sure everything's okay. And there's a guy named William Holden. When we get to the Wild Bunch, he's the main guy from that. He was married to a bunch of stupid information nobody knows, but I got in my head. Stephanie Powers from Heart to Heart was married.
He didn't lose any of that from being jostled.
That's right. That's right. You just got all boom, boom, like real bassy. But yeah. Oh, you sound like that. You sound like Raiders of the Lost Ark when that rat's trying to get to the ark and is pushing him away. So that wah wah wah, you know, that wah wah as it's burning the thing. It's God's power burning the Nazi symbol away. Stephanie Powers was married to William Holden. William Holden was in Africa, like just on vacation, whatever, at his house. And he was a big drinker and he drank too much and he either tripped or fell and hit his head on the coffee table. Nobody's there to nothing. So they find him like the next day that he's dead.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, holy shit. So I told my dad, I said, I know, right? Although William Holden isn't in it, but yeah, you can watch Stephanie Powers. So I told my dad, I said, be careful. Yeah, he was dead after that. Is that what you said? Was he dead?
Yeah, by Heart to Heart. Was he dead before Heart to Heart started or after?
No, he died after it started. And then the rumors came that he died and then Natalie Wood died. And so it was them having a love affair. And Robert, what's his name? Is his name Robert? What's the main guy from Heart to Heart? And he was like,
I could see his face.
He was like, I killed my wife, but I didn't kill my wife. And Christopher Walken's like, only you and I know what really happened. Anyway, let's not go down.
Fell in the water.
That's right. That's right. But
oops.
But recently we bring levity to the deaths of the celebrities because that's what we do here on My Sailor Heart. Arnold Schwarzenegger wrote on Instagram, Ivan Reitman is a legend. In Hollywood, he was bigger than life. He was comedy royalty. In life, he was a mensch, a wonderful father and husband, a fantastic friend, a great human being. He was kind, he was generous, he was smart as hell, and he was always there for you. I am devastated, and my thoughts are with the Reitman family. If you knew him, Ivan had a way of making himself a part of your story, and he certainly wrote a chunk of mine. I'll always be grateful that he took a chance on this Austrian action hero in a comedy during a time when the studios just wanted me to focus on finding new ways to kill bad guys, blow things up, and show off some muscles. I knew I could make it in comedy, but I needed someone else to know it too, make it a reality. That's why Ivan was a great director and friend. He could see something in you that other people didn't, and he could help you show the rest of the world. Making Twins, Junior, and Kindergarten Cop with Ivan Reitman was heaven for me. Spending the last few years working with him on Triplets, and once again seeing his passion and genius up close was a joy. Just last week, I was talking about how excited I was to be on set again with Ivan this fall. I can't believe I won't work with him again or hang out with him again or just schmooze about life again. But I also know that Ivan isn't gone. He's still with us. He's here in so many pages of my story. And if you were ever lucky enough to meet him or just experience his work, he's part of your story too. Thanks for everything, Ivan. So that's kind of the whole point of my show in a way. Also that these people die, but they'll live forever. There was, speaking of this movie, I was listening to this interview with, which I never finished that story to Chip. So I watched this thing on Criterion Channel. It's a John Huston interview from October 17th of 1979. He's on a talk show. It's just him and this other guy. And the other guy's asking me, and they're in Canada. And the other guy's asking him like about some movies in the past and Humphrey Bogart. And then he's also talking about some newer stuff. And so some stuff that he was going to work on, like a Stallone movie that never came. But anyway, so on there, he talks about they did The Man Who Would Be King. And in that's got Michael Caine and Sean Connery, and they're going for the right reasons. And then they're like, wait, we can be kings. There's an old man in that movie that's actually from that like tribal community there. And he had never acted before. And John Huston's like, let's get this guy to act. And they find out that him and his cardinal under him have never seen a movie. And this guy's 114 and he's never seen a movie. So they go, well, let's take him down to Bangladesh or wherever they were and show him what he's made. So they're watching the movie, or at least what they had done so far. He watches it. They're talking back and forth in their own language. And then John Huston's like, so what did they say? And the interpreter goes, they said that they'll live forever, because like that's that belief, the Indian thing of like, don't take my soul, like Native American.
Yeah.
It was that thing. They're like, we'll live forever. It's like, wow. He's like, it was really cool.
That's awesome.
So do you have anything to say about Ivan Reitman before I go to corrections?
No, the one thing that I felt when I found out about him dying was I was just so happy that he got to see his son's finale.
Yeah.
You know, to Ghostbusters, which obviously isn't so much a finale because they're saying that they're going to keep going. But I mean, when I heard that he got to see it first and that Ivan cried, you know, that was just, that, you know, I'm just glad that that's the case, because honestly, personally, there's quite a few things that have come out since my father's death that I wish I could have seen with him.
Yeah.
His favorite superhero of all time was Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of those things that just didn't seem to, you know, that just all these things that I know that he would have loved as far as the Marvel universe that he never got to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
So knowing that Ivan Reitman got to see his son do that and see that film and see what his son learned from him, basically, what he was capable of. So,
and the love letter to that movie, the love letter to Harold Ramis, like where his daughter signed off on it, was like cool.
She had to have bawled her freaking eyes out.
Oh yeah, I couldn't imagine. So let's get to some corrections.
You were wrong. Wrong. Finger guns. Wrong. Wrong in your weenie shot.
What'd you do, Ray?
I know. Well, some of these corrections that I make are more for me, but I want to head it off at the pass before anybody else goes, hey man, how can you not know Catherine Bigelow directed Detroit, The Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30, Near Dark, and Strange Days?
Yeah.
And I go, well, sometimes when you're live, you're on a podcast, and you know, sometimes I can be like, Chip, look that up, and you can look it up. But also we're in the middle of a conversation and you want to slow everything down by doing that. So
I
just
call that podcast brain.
That's right.
You get podcast brain. It happens.
Yeah, there you go. So I was like, she directed Detroit. It was a feeling that you got from Detroit, because
I haven't seen it, but
we're talking about the feeling that Brandt was like took him on a roller coaster. You know, he's like, I'm not going to watch it again because I don't feel like feeling that way. So we were talking about anxiety or movie, and I said Detroit was the first movie that pulled me in and made me feel like I was, you know, being questioned by police. Like it was crazy. Nice. And then I mentioned this, and if Chip was with me, he could have said Richard Tyson was that guy, and I would have been like, awesome, thank you. We were talking about cops, me and Jason, and Jason said, when he was going on a ride along, he was like, hey, when do you guys get to like not wear these blue outfits and just wear a badge around your neck on a chain? And he's like, we never do that. What are you talking? Like, that's in movies. And I was like, no, I have seen, like, I thought about it later. I'm like, no, I've seen some of these murder shows or the First 48, and the guys will come in there, you know, in plain clothes, but they got the badge hanging around their neck. But I was like, there used to be a show that I couldn't think of the name. I said, I had the guy from 3 O'Clock High and Kindergarten Cop in it. And I said, he was a cop. And I said, it was called Hard something. I said, it wasn't Hardcastle McCormick. I couldn't think of it. It was Hardball. Chip knows, he's not in his head. For those podcast people who are like, I can't see him. Chip will get on with it. We're in the second year. Chip will get it.
Yeah,
Chip will get it to go. Yeah, he'll get it to go. Yes, I remember. It was called Hardball.
I remember such things.
It was called Hardball, and it was cool because he was like undercover and he had like a ponytail and he arrested people, and it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then I made the mistake because I was talking about who I would cast in Taken. So my cast for Taken was George Clooney being a fucking badass going after his daughter. And it was Julia Roberts was going to be his wife. You know, she'd play the Lenore part.
Yeah.
And so when I'm reading about this movie, I was reading about the show that Sophie Turner, was it Sophie Turner? Hang on. Sophie Thatcher. She's in the Book of Boba Fett, rides one of the motorcycles. I said, there's this girl, Sophie Thatcher. I said, and I go, she plays a young Julia Roberts. What I meant was she plays a young Juliette Lewis in Yellow Jackets.
Gotcha.
So Yellow Jackets really good. Anybody who has Showtime, that is available. Chip informed me that I made a mistake by saying the Asphalt Jungle was on HBO Max, Turner Classic Movies Hub, because they pulled it. So I was like, oh, fuck. It is $5 on iTunes right now if you want to buy it, which Chip probably when he was going to rent it was like, I could rent it for $3 or buy it for $5.
Yeah, I went with the rent just because I wasn't sure.
Yeah. All right. You have anything? I'm gonna get on with the show.
No, let's do it.
All right.
Every private detective's got at least one case he's never shaken off. I can still see the faces from mine. Alonzo D. Emmerich, a wealthy attorney who knew the law and how to break it.
What if I were to tell you that I've got a plan worked out to get it off?
Boxman Louis Chiavelli. He could blow a safe quieter than a society dame blows her nose. Then there was Angela. There's always an Angela. John Huston's The Asphalt Jungle. Tuesday on TNT.
So crime is only a left-handed form of human endeavor. Like, I love that. I love this movie, Asphalt Jungle from 1950. I love this movie because, as Chip knows and everybody out there, I've said film noir is like one of my favorites. But in film noir, it's usually following a detective or a private eye or somebody investigating a crime and doing this is flipped. This is you're following the criminals and the cops are kind of in there. Yeah. So it's way cool. So the plot: recently paroled from prison, legendary burglar Doc Reidenschneider, he's so badass, with funding from Alonzo Emmerich, a crooked lawyer, gathers a small group of veteran criminals together in the midst of a big jewel heist. Stars Sterling Hayden as Dix Handley, which is just a cool name. But then you got Dahl, like Dix and Dahl. It's kind of funny. And him, what I told Chip, I tell him about. So Sterling Hayden was like, just didn't put up with all the bullshit of like he just did the acting to do the acting. But then people were like, oh, you need to be this celebrity. And he was like, no, fuck that. And he ends up at the end of his life, like he's driving around a boat, like just kicking back, like drinking beers and like just living the best life. It's like, that's awesome. Nice. But he's a good actor. He's in several movies. He was also in The Killing. So some people say they like The Killing. I know you haven't seen it. Stanley Kubrick, The Killing. Some people like that better than this. I used to feel that way a little bit, but now I've changed. Now I like Asphalt Jungle better. Louis Calhern as Alonzo Emmerich. He's the lawyer. Gene Hagen as Dahl Conovan. So Gene Hagen, I'm watching this and I'm going, Gene Hagen, she kind of looks familiar, but I couldn't place it. I didn't look it up. I was just like, oh, Gene Hagen. Then I'm watching, I'm listening to the audio commentary, and the guy's like, Gene Hagen would go 3 years later, she would be in Singing in the Rain, and she would play the actress, as I think I've told you, if you don't know what Singing in the Rain is about, it's about when sound comes into film. So they're these silent film actors, Gene Hagen and Gene, who's the dancer? Kelly. They're dating, or they're supposed to be an on-screen couple. Everybody's like, oh my gosh. But then when sound comes in, they're like, we're going to put you in a new movie. And her voice is like really just grating and annoying. And everybody, and so that's the comedy of it. Like she's a good actor, but her voice just isn't fit her face. Yeah. And so then they get then they get Donna Reed to be the voice, you know, and then she kind of, then they're treating her wrong. And then anyway, it's a good movie. Maybe we'll do it sometime. But I was like, oh my God, yeah, that's her. She totally funny in Singing in the Rain. Totally awesome. James Whitmore as Gus Minisi. Like fucking, I love Gus. That's the thing. I was thinking of that also with this is we did Empire Records and Brant was like, everybody was kind of a boom, boom, boom character, cookie cutter character. They didn't really have any range. You watch this, everybody is different. They're all such great characters. And they said that's what John Huston does is he'll do the little moments like her pulling off her eyelashes. Like that's just him going like, pull your eyelashes off and have this conversation like a normal person would. Somebody woke you up out of bed. Now you have to answer the door and you're half asleep. I took some sleeping pills. I don't know. Yeah, it's awesome. Sam Jaffe as Doc Irwin Reidenschneider, which, like I said, Doc is the mastermind of this whole thing. He's so badass. He doesn't fucking crack. He doesn't do it. He's just like, here's who I need. I like this guy. This guy will back me up. I like that guy. Okay. And then even at the end, which we'll get to later, he's just, okay, let's go. It's awesome.
Yep.
Mark Lawrence is Cobby. I know none of you know these actors, but he's the one that plays Cobby. Barry Kelly as Lieutenant Dietrich. Anthony Caruso as Louis Chiavelli. He was good too. Brad Dexter as Bob Branham. And Marilyn Monroe as Angela Finley. So Houston brings in, they were going to use this other girl. And then John Huston's like, let me test this Marilyn Monroe because she hadn't been in much of anything, you know, at that time. This is like one of her first roles. That's why she's like a lower character. But then on the posters and everything, it's her face. It's like, come on, she's not. And so he rehearsed for her in his office. She rehearsed it for him in his office. And she was like, can I lay down on the floor? And John Huston's like, okay. So she gets on the floor to do it. So some people, I think, read wrong into this, that they were on the floor and she was rehearsing. There's nothing wrong with this. John Huston in this document, in this interview that I watched, which my wife was like, you really interested in this? And I go, it's John Huston. He's dead now. She goes, everybody's dead. I go, no, this is just, it's really interesting.
They're all dead.
He's like, okay, yeah, exactly.
This is not Cocoon here. They're all dead.
So they were like, did you really, you know, have her do it on the floor or whatever? And he's like, we didn't have a couch. So she was like, can I do it on the floor? And he's like, sure. So she laid on the floor like it was a couch and talked to him that way and did the scene. So he wasn't convinced that she was right for the part and dismissed her, but changed his mind when he watched her leave the room. According to Film Noir Authority, Eddie Moeller, Huston later said that Monroe was one of the few actresses who could make an entrance by leaving the room. Like,
wow, yeah. That's awesome.
It's like, oh yeah. And the role was a breakout hit for her. Like then everybody's like, you know, she's so gorgeous in that. It's like, you know, but it's also the guy that plays Gus said he felt bad because she was so nervous. Like when they're at the after party, he said she was so like shy and nervous and just like this. And so you could see how, you know, I'm not going to go into any speculation of what happened to Marilyn Monroe, but it was that thing of she was so fragile that, you know, that this could almost break her. If you're not a Sterling Hayden that goes, fuck it, I don't need it. And you're somebody who's like this, I'll put my all into it. It could break you if that's what happened. I don't want people going, JFK killed her. Okay. Who knows? We don't know. The mob killed her. Okay. I'm just saying. Written by, it's from the book by W.R. Burnett and faithfully adapted by John Huston and Ben Maddow. So pretty much like we said about signing off on things like what's the name daughter? Harold Ramis. You know, W.R. Burnett's like, yeah, I love it. Go for it. And they've made a lot of his movies, you know, into, you know, Little Caesar and some other things. Directed by John Huston. So the Criterion Collection critic, Peter Heath Becker, admired Huston's technique. Quote, through his experience as a painter, Huston learned to frame an image, and throughout the film, he uses one shot where other directors might have needed three. Have you noticed that at all, or were you too into it?
No, I didn't really notice that. The thing that I noticed is that I love the fact that music was not needed
Yeah.
in the background. It
like,
wasn't like there was a
there.
chorus going all the time.
Yeah.
You were in the moment and there wasn't music pulling you out of it or trying to accentuate stuff.
Yeah.
It was just you were there for what was happening.
Yeah, exactly. To continue this, he dispenses with editing flourishes and overdramatic lighting and opts instead for sustained, well-composed shots. By balancing elements in the foreground and background of his images, Houston frames events and responses at once without cutting between them. So it's like, he'll just move the camera over or do whatever. And there was something that we'll get to later where when the cops knock at the door, did you notice that? Where she's like, who are they? And when she leans back, he's like, he knows he's busted. He's just like, he's just staring straight ahead. All right, now we're to Chip's favorite part, recasted. So you want me to go first or you go first?
Oh, you always go first, sir.
All right. Dix Hanley, Michael Shannon. He's tall, he's lanky. Right.
Nice.
Doc, Mark Rylance, even though he's not really old, but he plays that old character. So you could kind of doll him up as old and be like a Doc, although Doc was only like 59 when he made this. Cobby, Paul Giamatti, like he's the Weasley, like, sweats when he touches money. Like that would be him.
Nice.
Gus, Ben Foster. Ben
Nice.
Foster?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had a hard time, and then I flipped some at the end. I had Charlie Hunnam, but then I was like, no, Charlie Hunnam would be good for Louis Chiavelli, and Ben Foster would be good as Gus. Dahl, Kirsten Dunst, Alonzo Emmerich, Andy Garcia.
Okay.
Lieutenant Dietrich, Michael Keaton.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Bob Branham, Casey Affleck.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, Chip. What do you got?
All right. Dix Hanley, Liam Neeson.
Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Doc, Christoph Waltz.
Oh, interesting. That's cool. Yeah, that's way cool. I like that.
Cobby, David Krumholtz.
Krumholtz. He sounds familiar. Who is that?
The TV show Numbers, remember? And he was also the head elf on Santa Claus when he was younger.
Oh, yeah. The one who in Joe and I's favorite, and you and I probably saw it in the theater or whatever, and Michael Keaton, where he's like, what am I, Job? How much food can I eat? What am I, Job? Yeah. He reminds you of the kid from the Girl Next Door, but he's not, or the whatever that show was called with that girl from Elf. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
All right. Gus, Matt Damon.
Cool. Okay. Awesome.
The reason why I could see Matt Damon in that role was the moment that he grabbed that guy and threw him out. I just had this like thing of like, I could see him being the guy running the place, but not being afraid to go grab somebody and throw their ass out of the.
Yeah. He's hunchback. He's got a limp. Yeah. He's like, fuck you. Yeah. This is my place. Yeah. And the guy, he's like, you run over a cat, I'll fucking find you and kill you. Yeah.
Yeah. What's his name? Louis. How do you say last
Louis
name?
Chiavelli.
Chiavelli. Okay.
Yeah.
Louis Chiavelli. John Turturro.
Oh, cool. Okay. And who was okay? Cobby was him. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Because I could almost see Cobby as John Turturro also. But yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. That's awesome.
Well, I wanted Matt Damon's a little bit shorter.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah. John. Yeah. Them doing the heist would be Dix and John Turturro and Christoph Waltz.
And for Dahl, I wanted to make sure it was somebody that could work really well with Liam Neeson, where she could show her adoration for him, but him just being fucking clueless.
Yeah.
Karen Gillian.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. That's a good one. I like that.
Alonzo Emmerich. Matthew Modine.
Oh, that's a good one too. Oh shit. Yeah, because you got I was trying to think of like somebody who Alonzo Emmerich, as we said, there'd be spoilers, whatever. We didn't say that, but we're saying it now. But Alonzo Emmerich, I wanted somebody that you don't see as a bad guy that could play good or bad. And that's what's good with Matthew Modine. You're like, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's the respectable lawyer
Yeah.
type dude, but then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
he's Weasley.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Dietrich,
Mhm.
Michael Chiklis.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. See, I was looking for somebody a little overweight, and then I was like, no, Michael Keaton. Like, boom. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
And then for the final,
yeah, it was Bob Branham. I said Brannon, but it was Branham. Yeah.
Branham. Yeah.
Mhm.
Ever since seeing Knives Out, Chris Evans, I wanted him in that part.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. And just being like kind of calm and cool. And then finally, like, you're taking too long. I'm gonna fucking pull the gun on these guys. You're like, oh shit. So I have here, how did this movie come into your life? But how it came into my life. Because it came into your life through the show. So I'd always heard Asphalt Jungle, and I got it confused with a movie called Blackboard Jungle with Sidney Poitier in it. So I was always like, yeah, I think I've seen it. And then I'm like, oh no, that's a different movie. And so when I did The Killing, some people were like, oh, you should do Asphalt Jungle. And the what the fuck is that Michael Keaton movie? And they remade it with Mark Wahlberg. It's a heist. The Italian Job. They were like, you should put Asphalt Jungle with The Italian Job. And I'm like, no. And I did The Killing, and I love The Killing. But like I've said, I've come around now and like, no. So first time I saw this was like 2 or 3 years ago. And then I found it on iTunes for $5. And I'm like, I got to own that. Like, it's good. Like, the character driven. And for this time that you also probably didn't know, or maybe people out there who don't watch old movies, there was a code that you had to go by. So you couldn't show certain things, but they got away with showing a suicide and showing these criminals, you know, they like criminals couldn't get away with anything. They always had to be arrested or something had to happen. And then what was interesting was there's that part at the end that kind of feels like it's tagged on for like showing the cops when he's got all the radios on. And that was in the book. That guy put it in the book to show that here's what happens. So it was really cool. But you ready to get to some listener opinions?
Yes, let's do it.
All right.
Well, you gotta have an opinion.
Well, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one.
I hated this movie.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
I like it! Opinions vary.
Dr._Merkwerdigleby. Sorry, I fucked up the name. Wrote Asphalt Jungle, and then with the thing like Asphalt Jungle over The Killing, which, yes, is an unpopular opinion, but if you ask me, it was like a much more intense version of Crime Wave, which is another movie with Sterling Hayden. It was more of a bad guy who kind of got involved in something that was wrong, but he was on probation. He like didn't want any of it, but he got sucked in because his friend needed help. And but anyway, it's a good movie which talks about crime and why people do it. And I felt like it was described much better in this movie, if that makes sense. LOL, which makes sense. It's the whole like following the criminals. Eric.powell.simons._111768 wrote, awesome, loved it. Out of the podcast. So they're a podcast who does film noir. And a guy named Dan and a guy named Joey. Dan liked the movie. Joey didn't much care for it. Wrote, it's certainly good and worth a watch. One of us liked it more than the other, though. So that was, Joey didn't like it. I mean, he liked it, but he was like, give me something else. Monsieur Ebbs, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, wrote, excellent crime classic. Movie Chatter Podcast wrote, never saw it, but going to put it on my list on HBO Max. Chip said no. It's got to hook me quick. So that's the thing with him. Some people are like, I don't have time. You know, so he was asking me, so like recently on Movie Chatter Podcast, they did 15 minutes. So they did the podcast. They start the podcast. They're like, what are we going to watch? We're going to watch Antlers on HBO Max. We're going to watch the first 15 minutes, but not record it. You know, push pause, watch a movie, 15 minutes, turn it off, and then say whether we would continue this movie or not.
Oh, okay.
So that's his thing of like, it's got to hook me. But when you watch this movie 15 minutes in, I'm like, yeah, it's still building to the crime. Like The Killing was like, for you who haven't seen it, is like Reservoir Dogs, jumps back and forth in time.
Oh,
So you're working on when the crime is going to happen. This one is more what do you call it? Straightforward, a straight storyline, narrative.
Linear. Yeah.
Yeah, linear. Thank you. So anyway, are you ready to discuss this movie?
Oh yeah.
All right. So that opening scene, this is what got me when I first saw that movie. He goes into the diner and he just hands his gun to Gus. Gus just takes it, puts it in the drawer, closes it, turns the music way up. And then the cops come in and they're like, "Hey, how long has this guy been here? What do I look like, his fucking keeper? Why would I know? What the fuck?" Yeah. I love that. I love that scene. Also, what was funny was the guy that played Gus was like, "We're getting ready to do the scene." John Huston's like, "Turn the radio up really loud." His thing is like, "This is my first, I'm going to say dialogue in the asphalt jungle. Like I've been in other movies, but this is my getting ready to speak." And then all of a sudden you got to talk over the radio. And he's like, I was like, "What? Like nobody can hear me. My family's going to be like, did you say something?" But I love it. It's just, it shows you right away, like we're with the criminals. And what else they wanted to show in this that they showed in the book was criminals operate just like, that's why that opening thing that I said about crime, it's like so close. Like they're still just regular people who just are doing bad things, but this is how they act. Like I love the part, well, we'll get to it in a little bit, but remind me, part about the money, the money that Dix needs. When criminal mastermind Erwin Doc Reidenschneider is released from prison after 7 years, he visits a bookie named Cobby in an unnamed Midwestern river city. Cobby arranges a meeting between Doc and Alonzo Emmerich, a lawyer. Doc tells Emmerich of his plan to steal jewelry worth $500,000 or more. Doc needs $50,000 to hire 3 men and a safecracker, a driver, and a hooligan to pull off the caper. Emmerich agrees to provide the money and dispose of the loot. This is where I said Marilyn Monroe is so beautiful in this. But the thing that was cool was Dix comes in. He's like, "Hey, I need like some money. You're my bookie, and I need to make another bet." Because he's trying to get above. He's trying to, get above things and kind of get his head above water a little bit.
Yeah.
And
every time he gets close, he was talking about how every time he gets close, he just seems to bet on something that he thinks is a sure thing and screws himself over.
Yeah. And he's like, "I just want to be, on the farm and da-da-da." And so, and how him and his brother lost the farm and stuff. But what's cool is, so he goes to Cobby, he's like, "I need that money." And Cobby's like, "Yeah, I'll give you 23 for 25, whatever it is." And he's like, "Fuck you. I'll get my own money." And and he's like, "No, wait a minute." And he leaves. And that's when Doc is like, "I like this guy. Like, he's not putting up with any shit. That's who I need on my team." Yep. And I love how he goes to talk to Gus. Dix does. Gus calls Chiavelli. Chiavelli's like, "I can't give any money. I'm doing rent. I'm doing all this. Fuck you. I got a kid crying. I got to go." Hangs up the phone, goes in to see his wife, take care of the kid just for a second, comes back, gets on the phone. "You know what, Gus? Yeah, I can get that money for you." And you're like, these are friends helping friends out. Like, I've been in that situation and other people have helped me out. So I'm going to pay it forward and I'm going to help this guy out. Like, way cool. Doc hires Louis Chiavelli, a professional safecracker. And that's where he's like, 10,000. No, he's like, "No, give him 15. It's okay. You can give him 15. And Chiavelli only trusts Gus Menissi, a hunchback diner owner, as a getaway driver. The last member of the gang is petty criminal Dix Hanley, a friend of Gus. So that's what else we kind of skip past, because my walkthrough is a little different. But that thing of the way a police lineup was, like, it wasn't, you're not behind glass, you're in front of a glass. And that was real. Like, that's how it was. Like, they were just like, "Is this a guy? No, that guy's going to kill me." Like,
yeah, because he's just mean mugging him the whole time. Like,
yeah,
"I will kill you." Yeah,
exactly. So
I don't even understand what the point was of getting behind the glass.
Yeah,
like, it's like,
true.
Might as well just have him stand on a platform to where it shows the height of them, and that's about it. Who cares?
And did you see Strother Martin was in there? That little guy, did he look a little familiar? Maybe not, because you don't know. He was the one from Chip's favorite double album, Guns N' Roses, saying, "What we've got here is failure to communicate."
Yeah.
He's that guy.
Nice.
So I love how Doc tells Dix that he has a feeling that Emmerich is going to double cross them and ask if Dix will back him. And Dix is like, sure. Like that part is so cool where he's like, everybody's leaving. He's like, hang on, Dix. Like, can I talk to you? And Cobby's not there. They're somewhere else now having this conversation about how the heist is going to be. And all of a sudden it's like, and then he's like, I have a feeling he might try something. Are you behind me? Dix is like, yeah, fucking all the way. Dix tells Doll Conovan, who is in love with him, of his dream to buy back the horse farm that his family lost. During the heist, Chiavelli hammers through a brick wall. So what did you think of the heist? Like, were you like, how are they going to do it? Like,
it just seemed pretty straightforward when they were talking about it. They were talking about the manhole. They were,
yeah.
And it there was no glitz to it. It was basically just,
yeah.
When you're thinking about it though, if they tried to do the same exact thing now, they would have to have so much more smarts. They would have to there's so much more they would have to do to pull off something like that, because everything's reinforced. It isn't just a brick wall to just crack through. Like, especially when, if there's books telling you that this is how they did it, and then you see it in a movie, then people that actually have stuff like that are saying, oh, well, we need to fix our shit. We need to reinforce our stuff.
That's what we're going to get into in our next film. Is he had like criminal people with him that were like that were his people. What is the name? I'm drawing a blank. I'm doing a podcast, whatever you called it.
His entourage?
The people that are behind the scenes, like advisors, his criminal advisors going like, yeah, you can do this, you can do that. So it's really cool. During the heist, Chiavelli hammers through a brick wall to access the jewelry store, deactivates a door alarm to let in Doc and Dix, and opens the main safe using homebrewed nitroglycerin.
That was cool.
I like how they're like, this is soup, like,
they kept calling it soup.
And he like lays it down, and then he's like, be very careful. But then he's like pulling it with his teeth. You're like, you're gonna blow your face off. Like, be fucking careful. Things begin to go drastically wrong. The concussion of the explosion disrupts the power grid, causing several alarms in the area to sound. Dix slugs an arriving security guard who drops his revolver. And again, fucking Doc is just pulled up a chair, sitting there like, get the safe open. I paid you to open the safe. I'm just gonna sit here. And that electric eye, like them sliding under that, like the little laser beam, whatever it was in the 50s, like sliding under that, and like, and then blowing that door, and then have to get into the other door to blow that door. Like, oh, so cool.
Well, it's weird though, because at this point in the show, when I was watching it, I kind of knew that everybody was going to kind of have their ending. So I kind of felt like this was a mix between Ocean's 11 and The Departed.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because and also, but you're in it though. You're like, oh, they did it. But then when he's going to attack the security, and I like how they're already a team. Like, Chiavelli's like, now, and then the guard comes in and he hits him, and but he slubs the arriving security guard, who drops his revolver, which discharges and wounds Chiavelli in the belly. And you're like, oh, it's working so well. The men get away unseen, but a police manhunt begins. So Chiavelli, they're like, we can take you to a doctor. Chiavelli's like, no, take me home. And that's what else is cool is like, and I know it's written this way, I know whatever, but it's cool. The little things like Doc being like, do you have kids? Yeah, I have a kid. I have a wife, my boy. And then the next time when he sees Chiavelli, he's like, how's your boy? Oh, he's doing good. He had a temperature, but they say, temperatures aren't nothing to worry about. He's okay now. He's fine. And it's like, Doc really does care. He's not just giving some bullshit. It's a real thing of him like, okay, cool. Like I'm behind you on getting this completed so you can be safe, So he's like, no, just take me home to Gus. Dix and Doc take the loot to Emmerich, who confesses he is broke. And that's a thing where you're like, oh shit. And that's the thing where it's like, I think I've heard rumors that he doesn't have money. No, it's okay. He'll be all right. He had sent Bob Branham, a private detective, to collect sums owed to him, but Branham was unsuccessful. Desperate for cash, Emmerich plotted to double-cross the others with Branham's help. Emmerich suggests that Doc leave the jewelry with him, but Doc and Dix grow suspicious. When Branham brandishes a gun, Dix kills him, but is wounded himself. Doc scolds Doc fucking not frazzled at all. Like, Dix got my back. Dix fucking jumps over, shoots Branham. Branham dies right away. They're like, okay. And then Emmerich's like, and now you can see the real Emmerich, like, oh, I'm like a chicken shit. Oh my God.
Yep.
And Doc's just like, well, here's what we can do. So Doc scolds Emmerich for his foolish plan and tells him to contact the jeweler's insurance company and offer to return the valuables for 25% of their value. Emmerich sloppily disposes of Branham. He's like, but you got to get rid of that body. Disposes of the body in the river. Doesn't think like, maybe we should check his pockets. No, just dump him in the water. When the police find the corpse, they also find evidence pointing to Emmerich. When they question him, Emmerich lies about his whereabouts and claims he spent the night with his mistress, Angela Finley. Under pressure from the police commissioner, Hardy, Police Lieutenant Dietrich, who Cobby had previously bribed for protection, beats the bookie into confessing everything in a vain attempt to save himself. This part I love too, because like earlier, Cobby tells Doc that Dietrich is on their side and can be trusted. And Doc says, no, I knew a cop once that was like that until he went straight. Yep. And it's and you're like, oh shit, like that's, which is exactly what happens. That's one of those where pay attention, everybody, because here's what's coming. And it's the exact thing where he's like, Dietrich is like,
Then it still went the other way, because at the very end they asked about Dietrich, and he talked. The commissioner said that that he was going to serve time too.
Yeah, it says Dietrich is later arrested for corruption, which is cool because Cobby's like, I'll fucking throw you under the bus. Yeah. He's like, what the fuck? And he starts beating him up, and you're like, okay, maybe he can't throw him under the bus because, and then you're like, oh shit. So I love that scene. This is the part I was talking about. I love the scene where Emmerich and Angela are hanging out, and he's like, where should we go? She's like, oh my God, I got this thing for Cuba. We should go to Cuba. And he's like, oh, okay. And he's looking at it, and he's in his head like, when is the other shoe gonna drop? When am I gonna be busted? And there's a knock at the door, and she raises up and she's like, who is it? And then when she leans back, that same shot, this is what they're talking about certain things. Just she leans back, and you see she gets up to go answer the door, and Emmerich's just staring straight ahead, like, oh fuck, here comes the hangman. I'm done.
Yep.
So that I just love that part. With Cobby's confession, Hardy arrests Emmerich and pressures Angela to tell the truth about his whereabouts. And that's what else is cool. When the cops first show up for Emmerich, he's kind of just like, oh yeah, that was a guy I knew, it was a PI, blah, blah, blah. This time now you got the chief of police or whatever, like showing up at your door. Now you're like, oh fuck, okay, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, he called him by like his first name or something, didn't he, when he let him in?
Yeah, because he works with them doing cases and stuff.
Yep.
With Cobby's confession, Hardy arrests Emmerich and pressures Angela to tell the truth about his whereabouts the night of the crime. Emmerich is permitted to leave the room to phone his wife and commit suicide. So that's where like he tells her, like, go ahead, it's okay. You can tell her. You can tell him. But when they first showed up, those same two cops, when they go to the door and she answers the door, she's like, what do you want, you big banana head?
I laughed like right when she said that. I was like, what the hell?
Like, oh my God.
Well, and I also laughed at the way she used yipes.
Yeah.
Because she was showing him the pictures. Like, yipes. I'm so excited. Yipes. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. So then he's like, can I go call my wife? And they're like, yes. And then he goes in there and he starts writing out a note. And then all of a sudden it cuts to him opening a drawer and closing it. And you hear a gunshot, and that's it. And you're like, oh shit. After Gus is arrested, he attacks Cobby in jail, which I love. He's just kind of waiting for them to open his cell, and then he just jumps at the guy, and he's like, you motherfucker. When the police break down Chiavelli's door, they find that they have interrupted his funeral. So they're like, get Chiavelli. And then they knock on the door, and there's a full-on funeral in his apartment. Go ahead.
That was one thing that I realized that I never really understood being like younger, hearing it before. Rat fink. I didn't know what a fink And they kept saying that, you're a fink. You're basically, you are a rat, kind of a thing turning on us. So I never knew what fink, like they just kept saying fink over and over again.
Yeah.
So when he jumped at him and he just started screaming at him, he called him a fink. And
yeah, it was so good. Yeah, he's just like and that's the thing where who do I want on my team? Dix, Gus, Chiavelli, and Doc. That's who I want, that leaves Doc and Dix, who separate. So they're at that store and they're like hanging out. It sucks because that wasn't it's supposed to be an Italian place and they hired a guy to do it, but he either was too much or no, he was a guy who was from like South America or something, so he didn't sound Italian. So then they had to dub his voice with somebody, even though he's only on the phone. You don't see him really up close, But that leaves Doc and Dix, who separate. Doc asks the taxi driver to drive him to Cleveland. They stop at a roadside diner. So Dix is like, it'll get to Dix, but Doc is like, do you want to go with me? And Doc has said before, like, I want to get like a nice lady. I want to be in Mexico. Like, I just want to just live the good life. And they stop at a roadside diner where Doc lusts after a pretty young woman dancing at jukebox tunes and is distracted. So I love that when she's dancing, that thing of her going over to the window, and then as she dances away, then the camera pushes in and there's the two cops like looking through the blinds and you're like, oh shit. But also him just enjoying, like, let's have a meal. We'll smoke some cigars right now. We'll go have a meal. We'll enjoy. I'll pay you this much money. Drive me to Cleveland. No problem. And he even tells Dix, do you want some of these jewels? Dick's like, what am I going to do? I'm going to walk around with those? No, you keep them. It's like, okay. And that Doc is like, I need some money. And now Dix has some extra money and he's like, here you go. Here's the money that I got. I'll give you $1,000. Yeah. It's like, awesome. Because of the delay, Doc is recognized by two policemen who arrest him after finding the stolen jewels hidden in his overcoat. So also, did you notice he was sewing the jewels into his coat? Like while he's talking to Dix, he's just like sewing that in. And go ahead.
I do love that when he's being arrested and the one cop goes inside, he asks him, so how long were you standing there? So he knew that it was his fault, that him oogling and staring at the little, the dancing girl or whatever, that did him in.
The guy goes, about 2 or 3 minutes. He goes, the length of a phonograph record. And the guy's like, what? He goes, nothing. And it's like, yeah, if you would have just gave her the money and left or whatever. And even that taxi cab guy's like, okay, we're ready to go. He's like, no, just wait. And he's just so cool and calm, and he's been arrested before. So he's just like, do what you do. I'll do another 7 years and I'll get out and I'll fucking do this all over again. Like, and that's the other thing when they're like, when Dix is like, that's another kind of cool character moment. Dix is like, oh, you need a piece, you need a heater. He's like, honey, do you have a gun? And she's like, no, it got stolen once, I think. Like, I don't know. And he's like, and Doc's like, I don't need a gun. When you have a gun, the cops will want to shoot you. They have guns. I don't need a gun. You're like, yes, totally. Like, yes, if you're doing crimes, don't have a gun, because then you get armed robbery. So Dahl gets Dix a car and insists on accompanying him. She's like, I'm not going to tell you where the car is. I'm like, just give me the fob. I'll beep, beep. There it is. No, but this is in 1950. When he passes out from loss of blood at the train, like they're waiting for the train, Dahl takes him to a doctor who phones the police to report the gunshot wound. That's another, he's having the rail man, like, here, hold this up. And he's like, okay. He's like, I'm going to go in the other room. And he goes in to call the police and be like, there's a gunshot victim here. Like, this wasn't a regular fight. This is something criminal. When he passes out from loss of blood, I already said that. Dix regains consciousness during an IV infusion and escapes before they arrive. So in the book, he died there at the doctor's office.
Oh, okay.
So then in the movie, he's like, no, we're going to have him leave. He pulls his IV out. He and Dahl arrive at his family's former Kentucky horse farm. Dix stumbles into the pasture, collapses, and dies. And then I think that horse ate his shoulder or something. The end. So, yeah. What thoughts before I get into any more facts or anything?
No, I really love how it's the same way, like we were saying, because it's the same thing like with Empire Records. Every character had their moment, had their story, had their personality. And so it was the same thing with this, but every character had their direction they were going. They had their downfall, their reason, something was going to happen to them. And that's what's good about it. It wasn't all the same. It wasn't just a shootout in different areas of town where they each got killed by a bullet. You know, everybody, it happened differently. So it was really well done with that. And like you said, there's a lot of foreshadowing when they're talking about certain things, you know. It just kind of worked out because, I mean, obviously with the doctor right away, he's looking at the pictures of the ladies when he's in Cobb's office, when he's left the room, and he's looking at him and staring at him and getting all. And when you see how oogly he gets over those, but then all of a sudden Dix comes in, he's like, oh, like he got a little embarrassed and walked away. So that was foreshadowing to the end of him being so just loving younger women. That was going to fuck him over.
I didn't find. Did you find it creepy? I didn't find it creepy, but maybe that's because the actor.
He'd been locked up for 7 years. So
but I didn't find it as like a skeevy old man. I found it as a man who admires a woman's form or whatever. You know, that girl who was dancing, she was a Disney. Like they would rotoscope her and put her in Disney movies. So like. I don't know if it's Snow White, but she did some of those. Like there was another one after Snow White, you know, Cinderella or whatever. Like she was, so I was like, oh, that's cool. So she was finally able to be herself in a movie. Nice. So, and there's things where in a way they got away with like her dancing into the camera and her boobs are coming into the camera. And like, you know, where I could see like the Hays Code being like, hey, what's going on? No, you can't have this sexy dancing. And they're like, no, they got away with it.
Well, and it was also because of the way that they were talking about his camera shots, because the camera shot didn't pan in on her breast. It was just showing coming close and moving back.
Yeah, and that's where, and in a way that's good too, where you're covering your ass because no, it's a 3-shot. I'm showing these kids, and she just happens to be dancing. I can't cut that, you know, whatever. When the film was complete, Louis B. Mayer said of it. So he ran MGM. This is what was weird. Also, MGM never did like gritty movies like this. They did the musicals, they did melodramas, they did all that. So Louis B. Mayer said of this movie, it's trash. That asphalt pavement thing is full of nasty, ugly people doing nasty things. I wouldn't cross the street to see a picture like that. Which, as I wrote this down, I thought two things. One is, wow, Louis B. Mayer, of course, was like, no, give me pomp and circumstance and spectacle and give me all that. But the other thing is, if I hear this, I'm going to run and see that movie. So is this him being a showman and being like, I'm going to lay this down of like, I would, whatever it's called, asphalt pavement, I wouldn't go see it. And then people being like, oh, I got to go see this gritty fucking film. So is it like him promoting it?
It's like the guy outside of the tent talking about the creature
most
that's
grotesque.
Inside the tent.
Yeah, exactly. So the film was nominated for 4 Oscars.
Wow.
Best director, best actor in a supporting role, Sam Jaffe, who played Doc. Best adapted screenplay, Ben Maddox and John Huston. And best cinematography, black and white, because they were doing color then too. So best cinematography, black and white, Harold Rawson, which is it's really good. Rotten Tomatoes critical consensus reads, The Asphalt Jungle is an expertly told crime story with attention paid to the crime and characters in equal measure. So I give this movie.
I love how clean it was, though. Like you said, with the black and white, it was so crisp and clean.
And just, I don't know, it just pulled you in. I didn't feel like that other guy on Out of the Podcast, the guy who didn't like it. He was like, it's like Joey. Thank you. Wow, look at you remembering things. He's like, it's a slow crawl to get to the crime. He goes, when they get to the heist, I was like, oh, now I'm interested. He goes, but before that, I wasn't interested. And it's like, no way. Like, I'm in it from the beginning. I love all the characters. I love Doc. Like, so fucking cool. I give this movie 4.5 cellular hearts, but I realize I give The Killing 5. So I might have to switch those, give this 5 and The Killing 4.5. but the killing is still great. Like you need to see it sometime. But what do you give it?
I give it 5.
Awesome.
I was very impressed by just everything about it. The fact that it did not need the overture of music and crap, and it was just crisp, clean. It just was beautifully made. It was
where
they were there to tell a story, not to make you jump out of your seat, or you know what I mean, or get all freaked out. Like you were there to want to know what happens to these characters.
It was like a play, like you're just watching, like you know, and that's what else great that you give it 5. Great that I give it 5. I'm gonna say that right now. Here's the trick that I've told people about. I go, Chip, you want to do a movie you've never seen? Chip goes, I kind of like that this year. Let's do movies I haven't seen. I go, okay. My fear is that I'm like, Chip's gonna fucking love Thief, or Chip's gonna love Asphalt Jungle, and then Chip's like, it's Sugarland Express, and Chip's like, I give it 2.5, or whatever, and you're like, motherfucker, like, I was hoping you would, but also, like we've said, that's what's better with these kind of shows is then it's like, if you didn't like, I can be like, what about this, and then you might be like, okay, I'll give it 4, or whatever, or vice versa. Or if I didn't like it, I can be like, really, you give it 5? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So that's what I like. This movie, it's a good film noir. It's a good crime heist. Like, I love the heist. I've always loved heist films. You feel dirty, like you're just in this world, and you're just like, it's amazing.
Well, and the thing that I love about it, like you said, the way, like with Houston saying, turn up the radio and do these things and pull off your eyelashes, do these things.
Yeah.
He made it feel real by doing that.
Yeah.
That's part of when you watch this, even though it is an older movie, it's not like some of the movies you watch now where you can tell the influence and that a movie feels too much like another movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Type of a thing. There's no way, like the way that he did it, every person feels real enough to where you're not sitting there going, oh, they were trying to make it like this or trying to make it like that, or you know what I mean? It just really just you were pulled into it.
And do you think, I'm going to argue with myself now. Do you think that if you knew these actors more, like now it's 2021, Chip does not know who Sterling Hayden is. He does not know Louis Calhern. He knows Marilyn Monroe. He hasn't seen her acting in much, but you don't know James Whitmore. Like, do you think back then you might be like, oh, I like that Gus guy, but he was in that other movie last year where he played, but I think it'd be just like now where you'd be like, oh, I love Casey Affleck in Manchester by the Sea. Like he's not like he was in Good Will Hunting, or whatever, So, so that's why I'm arguing myself out of it. I think you would just go, no, I love these characters.
Yeah.
And the thing with Sterling Hayden was the studio was like he doesn't have the looks and he's not a good actor. And one of the scenes, I don't know which one it was, but John Huston said, hey, Sterling, I want to tell you something. Whenever fucking Hollywood says that you can't act, you have him talk to John Huston and I'll fucking tell them. And he's like, okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool. So now we'll get to Phil's film favorite of the week. It's a tongue twister. I didn't really have, I wanted a big movie that I saw, but I've been moving some stuff out of my room. I got to cut the carpet up and we're going to put tile in and all that for the last 2 rooms. But I did see Cop Shop yesterday from 2021. It's Leonidas is in it, Gerard Butler and Frank Grillo, and it's done by Joe Carnahan. And what is cool about it is that it goes back to like Smoking Aces type of Joe Carnahan. Like it's kind of frenetic and crazy, and they got this crazy crazy police station where they're at, where you're like, this can't be a real police, but that's why it's fun. And then my wife was going like, why doesn't she just shoot? Why is she's supposed to be a really good cop with that gun or with a gun, and she can't hit this guy at all. And I'm like, it's okay, honey. Come on. Let's just, but again, when you put that with the movie we just watched, you go, that's done right. It's a criminal. Doc is like, I don't need a gun. Dix is like, knows that Gus will fucking take his gun and hide it and like, protect him. And this is way cool. But Cop Shop, it's on Peacock Channel. I swear. Asphalt Jungle, It was not on HBO Max or Turner Classic Movies. I'm very sorry, but it's $5 on iTunes if you want to buy it. Chip's like, not now. That'd be $8.
Yeah.
So Cop Shop's from 2021. It was fun. Like if you want some kind of quick action little film, it's like the one guy's being chased. Frank Grillo gets arrested, and they take him to the police station, and then Gerard Butler is drunk, and they arrest him for being drunk, a DUI, take him in. All of a sudden, he's not drunk. He's there to get Frank Grillo, and he's like, "You're fucking, I'm going to get you." While they're in there, this fucking homicidal guy who's like with Gerard Butler, like to get this, be a hitman. He shows up, and he's fucking all kinds of loony craziness and killing a bunch of people. And now they're, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but also they still like, don't let him fucking go. The cop's like, I'll let you go. And the other one's like, don't fucking trust him. And you're like, who do you trust? And then there is a thing where you're like, oh shit. It was a little switcheroo. So it was cool. Nice. But anyway, are you ready? Got anything else to say before we talk about what's coming up next week?
Yeah, everybody, go to Amazon Prime and watch Reacher because it was fucking badass, and I watched through the whole damn thing.
Yes, it is. I asked Jason. I said, have you been watching Reacher? He goes, yeah, I fucking love it. And I go, yeah. At first, when I saw the trailer, I was like, this guy's too cocky. I don't like him. He's too like breaking the things. Like, and I was telling my wife, I go, those are zip ties. Like, you're supposed to be pull them down on your body, and that'll pull them apart. I'm like, I don't know if you could just pull them apart. She goes, look at him. Yeah. Look at him. She goes, if you put zip ties on the rock, he can pull them apart probably. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. And
they're not made of steel.
So yeah. So then but then watching the show, then you're like, oh yeah, this guy's badass. And when I talked to Jason, Jason's like, I said, I'm used to my Reacher I said, I know he doesn't match the part. He's not a badass guy, but I like Tom Cruise's Reacher. He does fine. And he's like, that's the thing. Reacher is 6'5". He's this guy. Although my wife's like, I look him up. He's only 6'2". I go, well, then the character must be 6'5", because, Yeah. But yeah, it's really good. Did you watch that other one, that Ben Affleck movie that he directed?
Yeah.
Oh, it's really good. But anyway, and Peacemaker, of course, is good. My wife's really digging that. My wife I was kind of amazed. She was like, I really like that. I'm like, oh, okay. And Book of Boba Fett, some people were like, it's going too slow.
I haven't watched the last one. I haven't watched the finale of Boba Fett or the finale of Peacemaker.
No, there hasn't been a finale yet of Peacemaker.
I thought there was.
No, it was just the last one. They're still working on, I think. I don't know. I know that it's been picked up for season 2.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't blasted it all over social media.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's done yet. But yeah. But anyway, we'll be back on February 25th for...
Tonight, his take-home pay is $410,000. Tax-free.
I am like no one you have ever known before.
Come on.
I am. They gotta be big scores, they gotta be fast. I'll make you a millionaire in 4 months.
They don't run me, and you don't run me. James Caan, Thief, rated R.
Thief, now playing at a theater near you.
That's right. From 1981, it's Thief, James Caan, James Belushi. As I've said before, when I met James Belushi, I was like, I loved you in Thief, and I loved you in Salvador. And he was like, oh, Thief. He goes, yeah. He goes, Jimmy should have won a fucking award for that. Should have won an Oscar. I go, yes, I agree. I said, he said that's the best movie he's ever been in. Next to Godfather, he loves that movie. And he's like, really? And I go, yeah. And it was just cool having a little conversation with John Belushi's brother. So that was cool. And that's why I wanted to play the trailer for you on here so you could hear it, but maybe I'll just send it to you. But anyway, it's really good. I hope you enjoyed. That one is on HBO Max. Let's check right now. I'll check right now. You better run out and watch it, everybody. Hang on. Chip, tell some stories while I'm looking it up.
Well, I don't know. I loved James Caan in the Blood and Bone.
Okay, hang on. It's on Tubi,
and
it's on. Wow, not on HBO Max, everybody.
Son of a, you lied again.
No. Well, here's the thing. It's on Pluto TV. It's on Pluto TV. Did you say con? It's on Pluto TV. It's on Pluto TV commercials. It's on Tubi with commercials, which is fine for normal people except for Chip. You can rent it on Vudu for $4, or you can buy it for $14. But it's really good. So, and then if you have a library card, do you have a library card? You can rent it on Canopy. That's a thing. Anyway, everybody, I'm sorry that I chose these movies because I was like, wow, everybody can watch them. HBO Max, awesome. And then it's like, nope. But that's the thing with Chip and I. We've noticed, like, we do Midnight Run, and then what's her name dies, and we're like, oh shit, like, you know, damn. Yaphet Kotto, and then Charles Grodin.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like, oh shit. But yeah. So everybody should see Thief. We're still going to do Thief anyway. But what we did find on HBO Max is Runaway Train is on there. So I'm like, oh, Chip, maybe we can do that soon. But anyway, so yeah. So certain movies stick with you. They stay in your head and heart forever. So from all of us at My Celluloid Heart, keep watching movies. What do you have to say, Chip? He's waiting.
Yipes. I just love that. Yipes.
Oh, okay. You big banana head.
Yeah, big banana head.